Hey, folks, this clip is brought to you by Rattle and Snap Tennessee Whiskey from Lockstill Distillery. Make your own luck, just like Tennessee football's fast-paced Rattle and Snap offense with Rattle and Snap Tennessee Whiskey. So, the transfer portal so far for Tennessee, let's go through. It started out with Mo Clipper, who, while he has an awesome name, hasn't played almost at all for Tennessee. Jack Luttrell, who was... I kind of thought that was a little bit of a shame. I wish that his potential could have been fleshed out a little bit more, but maybe it's just a situation where he felt like he was never going to play, and like Tennessee was maybe just going to transfer portal over the top of him, during his time at Tennessee. I don't know. You got Warren Burrell. Hits sport. Actually, he was probably first, wasn't he?
Yeah,
Burrell was number one. Just before we came on here. Addison Nichols, offensive lineman. That's another one. That's a real shame. 4-star guy that came in. You really wish that you would have gotten more out of him, and maybe you could have if he stays. But he intends to hit the transfer portal. And there's one more. Who am I not thinking of?
Turnage.
Brandon Turnage. That's
Turnage.
Right. Who was already a transfer. He transferred from Alabama previously. And he's out again, but he came in after injuries more than he played as a starter. And so a little understandable there too. What do you think so far of what Tennessee has lost in the transfer portal?
Yeah, I mean, you're always going to lose a couple of guys. Luttrell, who knows? Maybe that's NIL related. We remember he posted the cryptic, or not really cryptic. He straight up said, "I don't know what the point of a collective is if players aren't getting paid or something like that." Last summer,
oh boy,
he's just a true freshman, so you can't really expect to play much as a true freshman. I think he's a 3-star, so it's not like he came in as a highly talented guy. But he had good size and decent speed, so you thought maybe he had something there. So. Disappointing to lose that, but you don't really know the whole situation there for sure. Turnage is a grad transfer, probably trying to see the field more. Same thing with Burrell. The biggest one for me is Nichols, Addison Nichols. That one's disappointing because that's a guy that you got a commitment from and you signed as a 4-star out of Georgia that you really felt like could develop into a key player. Had some opportunities early this season with Cooper Mays hurt. Didn't really run away with that job. Ollie Lane ended up playing a lot there. Dane Davis. It seemed like he picked it up a little more towards the end, played a lot against Vanderbilt, practiced well that week. That's a disappointing one. I mean, there's really no other way around it. It's disappointing to lose him, but it's disappointing that he wasn't, developing the way that you hoped he developed. Is it a situation where he just needed more time and he's jumping the gun a little bit here? I don't know. It's one that it just didn't pan out the way you wanted it to. And those are it's going to happen sometimes. And Tennessee, like you said, South Carolina, a lot of these other programs are just getting raided by the portal right now. And Tennessee really isn't. So, yeah, you're going to have a couple here and there. No panic alarms for Tennessee. Nothing. They're not in a dire situation where they're losing guys left and right. So it's just kind of normal portal turnover. Nothing to freak out about too much.
Yeah, so far I think this is a good point, Elias. Says a lot of fan bases are seeing some red flags today. We do not seem to be one of them, thank God. I mean, it's the process is not over. but I do think that is true. It doesn't seem like you're seeing that mass exodus like perhaps at South Carolina, Ohio State, whoever it might be that you've seen. I mean, we were just talking about right before we came on here, there's kind of this like rumor going around that Ryan Day is looking at NFL jobs because he can't beat Michigan. So I think you got to count your blessings when you don't have a mass exodus into the transfer portal, and you got to consider it a good thing, even with, the season didn't go exactly the way that you wanted it to. But I think when you see the season didn't go the way that you wanted to, and then you see that a lot of guys don't leave in the transfer portal, and then you see that there are some guys coming back because you saw a couple of reports today that Amari Thomas is likely coming back for this coming season. You see all that combined together, and you kind of think like, okay, these dudes believe in what this coaching staff is doing still. This is good. It doesn't seem like you have a lot of problems where kids are like, I got to get out of here. And you have to take all of that as a good sign, in my personal opinion. Especially the guys coming back when they kind of have an unfinished business sort of mentality. I think that's great because not only do they probably believe in what Heupel is doing, but they believe that next season could really turn into something special potentially. I mean, especially like Maury Thomas coming back. I mean, he would go to the NFL this year. Period. I personally, I don't know that he's going to be a top pick, but I think he would likely get drafted given a nice pro day and being able to shop himself with NFL teams. I think he would have been right there. So that's good. These are good signs. And I'll take it at that.
Yeah, I mean, it would be different if you're losing like some of your top wide receivers, if like Squirrel was going to the portal or even Chaz Nimrod, one of the under receivers. You just don't really have anything like that happening. No key players that you were counting on to start next season. Maybe you were hoping that Nichols could develop into that, but it didn't really seem like it was trending that way. So you're not really losing anybody that you were hoping to start. Maybe some depth pieces, but you're going to go to the portal and replace some of that. Tennessee's already recruiting some of these guys. They've offered a defensive lineman from Middle Tennessee, offensive lineman, I think, from Texas A&M, the tight end today from UConn, Justin Jolly. That would be huge to get, especially with McAllen Castles and Jacob Warren moving on. Like Ben mentions there in the comments, you get him to go with Ethan Davis, who Ethan Davis really has star potential. If he can, stay on the field and get out there, he can be a playmaker, maybe one of the better tight ends that Tennessee's had in a while. That maybe Heupel can get creative with the way he uses tight ends and utilize him more of a hybrid tight end wide receiver type player. A lot of interesting options there, but you're going to feel some of this depth with the portal. I mean, Heupel's MO is to build this program through high school recruiting. He's still getting that off the ground. The 2021 class wasn't his. Most of that class was in place. 2022, you still didn't have time to really build those relationships. The 2023 class, to me, is his first real, like, these are my guys that I've built the relationship with for a couple of years. That's that first class. So
few things go better with a Tennessee sports victory than an awesome whiskey. And actually, me and Jonathan Crompton had a drink of whiskey during the postgame show of every football win this past season. And more specifically, we had Rattle and Snap Tennessee Select Straight Whiskey. You can see it right there behind me. Log Still Distillery has released a new Tennessee whiskey product line called Rattle and Snap Tennessee Whiskey, named after a long-forgotten game of chance. Rattle and Snap is a whiskey for those who make their own luck. There's a 4-year and an 8-year version of Rattle and Snap whiskey. And actually, this one behind me is the 4-year version right here. It's perfect for making your favorite whiskey cocktails or just drinking neat. It's really great stuff. And I mean, you can see it there. The bottle looks great too. You can find Rattle and Snap right now in stores across Tennessee. And Rattle and Snap is also available in Kentucky, Indiana, and Mississippi. So run, don't walk to get yourself some Rattle and Snap whiskey. And follow Rattle and Snap on Instagram at Rattle and Snap Whiskey. That is Rattle and Snap Tennessee Select Straight Whiskey.
The offensive line depth, we know, isn't really where we'd like it to be. But I think you got to give that time to build. It's kind of like Glenn Ellerby was having to start from scratch, basically. So let's get some of these 2023 guys in. You've got some really nice commits in the 2024 class, headlined by Bennett Warren, maybe Jordan Seaton.
Oof.
We'll see what happens there coming up. So, give that some time to kind of play out. I don't think we can judge that unit too much, quite yet. Rodney Gardner on the other side on the defensive line kind of had a better deck of cards to play with when he came in to Tennessee as an assistant that same season. So all that said, Heupel still has shown a willingness to add some through the portal when he sees, a need there. Keenan Peely last year, hopefully he comes back for another season. That would be massive. At linebacker, some of Tennessee's best players over the last couple of seasons have been transfer portal players. So he's definitely going to try to add some guys there, but we know how important culture is, so it won't be just anyone. They're not going to be throwing offers out left and right, chasing down every single talented player in the portal. They'll pick and choose who they add.
I think so. And I mean, before we fully move on to who Tennessee needs to bring in or might bring in, just finish that off. I thought this makes a lot of sense. Doug said Addison Nichols is leaving because Cooper Mays might stay. Cooper didn't go through senior day. That probably is a factor. I think it's fair to
But
speculate there.
you're a redshirt freshman. I mean,
Yeah, you're
you didn't.
gonna if you stick it out, he would have played eventually, in my personal opinion. But
And it's not like he ran away with the job early in the season when Cooper was down, and then Cooper came back and took the job from him or anything like that. Like he didn't take a hold of that job when he had the opportunity, and that's fine. He was still a young player. Like I don't think this whole mindset of I have to be on the field as a freshman, as a redshirt freshman, even as a sophomore sometimes, that's a flawed mentality. Sometimes it does work out that way. Sometimes the talent's there, sometimes the understanding's there. Maybe it's the high school coaching, the way they were developed before they even got to Tennessee. It just clicked sooner. Whatever the case, sometimes that happens, but it doesn't always happen, and it doesn't always mean that you're going to, not be an NFL prospect because you don't flash until you're a junior. Like we've seen plenty of situations. Darnell Wright being a great example of that. Even as a 5-star guy, didn't really take off until his last season, last 2 seasons at Tennessee. That mentality with the portal and the NIL stuff, I get it. Sometimes the right move is to transfer. Sometimes the right move is maybe to maximize your value at a certain time, but sometimes the best move is just to stay. And I think that's part of what you kind of alluded to, this whole transfer portal stuff, taking a few years to work itself out. A lot of these guys are going to go in the portal and they're going to see that, nobody's calling, or nobody that they want to call is calling. We were talking about how many players you see enter the portal, and you go look at their game logs and their stats and what they've done, and it's an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman from Oklahoma has entered the portal. Oh, he's been there 2 years and he's played in 3 games. Like, okay, no, Tennessee's not going to take that guy. They have some of those guys. They don't need those guys. They need guys that have experience that can come in and play immediately. That's what SEC programs are looking for. That's what Big Ten programs are looking for. So some of these guys that think that they're just going to hit the portal and have their phone ringing off the hook and people offering money, eventually they're going to see that's not always the case. That's where the transparency would really help. If you kind of knew what guys were making and what everybody was making, it would end a lot of this movement.
Exactly. That's a great add-on to what I was saying earlier. Like, it's just the market feeling its way through this initial time of it just being, the quote unquote Wild West. Like, it just has to get ironed out. And hopefully it does. But we'll there's a lot here. So we got to talk about who Tennessee might bring in a little bit further from the transfer portal. Then also Elias and James here in the comments, they're both talking about James Pierce got arrested. We got to talk about that too. But then I just noticed this, and I apologize, I had missed these earlier. Timothy super chatted $25, and I had missed it, because it's kind of hard to explain what I see on my end. But like if I go off from what I'm looking at for any amount of time and the comments scroll by this small space that I have, I miss it. And so I apologize, but I just saw this. This is going all the way back. He said, this is how you do it. The NCAA Division I football championship provides for a field of 24 teams to compete in a single elimination tournament. Of the 24 teams, 10 conference championships will receive automatic. I mean, that would basically, it would be basketball at that point. He said qualifications with the remaining best 14 teams being selected on an at-large basis by the Division I football championship committee. Yeah, I mean, there's no perfect way to do that. It is still going to come down to whatever human error outside of those conference champions, but at least you could avoid the complete just spitting in Florida State's face whole element. That would be nice.
I think Mike Leach maybe kind of joked around about that, about expanding out even to 64, which isn't feasible for football, but I would love like a tournament style.
Yes.
20, the numbers, I would think like maybe 16 or 32 just to make it even. Because I don't know about the buys. We've seen in baseball how weird that can be, and taking time off and that layoff. Sometimes it's home field. It would be a much better reward for higher seating, kind of throughout. But I would love to see something like that. The money, I mean, obviously it would bring in a ton of revenue. The logistics of it's what would kind of be tough, because you don't want these kids playing, 17, 18 games a year. So, I mean, I don't think 12 is where it's going to stop, though.
Yeah, and Timothy adds on. He says, "Yes, you probably have less opt-outs." I think
Oh, for sure. I mean, you don't.
That's for sure true, and that was one of my original points where I was like, "You need to expand," is because there's been this epidemic of opt-outs. Like
It's
you're
made the
giving
bowl
these
games
kids
so
more games to
pointless.
care about.
Yeah, it's made a lot of the bowl games where it's not even the versions of the team that you saw all season. Tennessee and Clemson were pretty fortunate last year, fans were, that neither team had that many opt-outs. Jalen Hyatt didn't play, Cedric Tillman didn't play, Miles Murphy for Clemson didn't play, but for the most part, that was their teams from that season that played outside of, obviously, Hooker was injured. Clemson had already made the quarterback change, but a lot of these bowl games are, what version of this team is this even?
Yeah, it's exactly. And I mean, that's why talking about like the Citrus Bowl against Iowa right now is a little bit of a moot point, at least at the moment, because you don't know who could. I mean, I don't think this is going to happen, but there is a chance that like Joe doesn't play in this game. I think he's gonna, especially now that the game is in his home state. But like there is that outside chance. You never know.